revealed at my son's funeral. The incredible message that exposed a hidden truth: I'm alive. The sun hung low over Maplewood as Sarah stepped out of her truck, her heart a heavy anchor pulling her down. Today was Ethan's funeral, and she felt like a ghost in her own life. The air buzzed with murmurs of support, tight-lipped smiles masking the sadness that threatened to tear everyone apart. All she could think about was how her hard-working single-mother routine hadn't been enough. She should have seen it. She could have saved him. As the community gathered in the old church, the scent of fresh flowers filled the air, thick with grief. Friends, neighbors, and strangers crowded together, sharing side glances filled with understanding and sorrow. Ethan had been the light of this town, a teenager full of joy and laughter. Yet here they were, mourning his sudden absence. The pews creaked under the weight of collective heartache. When Ethan's close friend, Jake, clutched the journal at the podium, the silence turned electric. It felt like the breath of the collective townsfolk had been held in unison. Jake's hands trembled, the journal a fragile artifact of Ethan's untold struggles. Every eye was glued to him, and every heartbeat felt louder than the last. Ethan wrote about so many things. Jake's voice cracked as he began reading. My dreams seem so far away. I feel like I'm never enough. Each word was a dagger, piercing through their community's shared facade. The townspeople shifted uneasily, uncomfortable in the stark truths brought to light. He wanted us to know, Jake continued. He was alive even when he felt invisible. The emotions surged like a tidal wave, sweeping through the crowd, revealing the doubts they all shared in whispered conversations, hidden under the American dream's bright glow. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Jake read on, tears streamed down Sarah's face. Each entry beat like a drum in her chest, resonating with unspoken pain. I'm tired of pretending I'm okay. Sarah's heart raced. Guilt churned inside her, a relentless tempest of regret. Why hadn't she seen the signs? Why hadn't she asked the hard questions? With each staggering revelation, the town's camaraderie began to take on a new hue, colors of shame and urgency clashing against hopeful reflections. They were a community built on strength, but overshadowed by unacknowledged battles. She could feel their hearts shift, an awakening sparked by Ethan's words. But still, it felt fragile, the kind of change that needed nurturing to grow strong. As the service neared its end, Jake's voice faltered, pulling from a final excerpt. If you're reading this, please don't just remember me. Start talking about your struggles. Let us not ignore the truth. A hush swept through the room, stifling breaths and murmurs like a bowstring pulled taut. The desire for change hung thick in the air, a shared realization of what had to come next. Sarah felt the weight of her grief transform into hope, envisioning a path forward. The question loomed heavy: how could they ensure Ethan's legacy inspired lasting change? But in the stillness, anxiety gnawed at her heart, leaving a chilling uncertainty. Would they step up, or would they let his voice fade into the silence? As the final words of Ethan's journal faded into the air, Sarah's heart hammered against her ribcage. She looked around the church, the faces of friends and neighbors now heavy with realization. It was as if Ethan had orchestrated this moment, urging them all to confront what they'd been trying to ignore for so long. Sarah inhaled sharply, her breath hitching at the thought. This was more than a farewell. It was a rallying cry. Jake stepped away from the podium, wiping tears from his cheeks. The warmth of the room felt suffocating, yet bouncing off echoes of Ethan's truth. Sarah felt a surge of courage amid her grief. Maybe it was time to honor Ethan's wishes not just with memories, but through action. Everyone, she called, her voice breaking the tense silence. Let us not just remember Ethan today. Let us promise to keep talking. He wanted us to open up. The words rushed out, a mix of urgency and hope. We can't be afraid to share our struggles anymore. A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. Faces that had once been downcast lifted slightly, a flicker of resolve igniting. Sarah noticed Mrs. Thompson, the high school counselor, nodding thoughtfully. The woman had always been a beacon of support. It was a small gesture, but it deepened Sarah's belief that they could create a space where no one felt invisible. Over the next few moments, conversations began to blossom in the church. People huddled in clusters, whispering ideas and memories. The sound of voices began to fill the silence that had weighed so heavily moments before. Each shared story seemed to weave the community together, stitching its collective heart back into a working form. Sarah felt warmth spread through her. An undeniable sense of direction. As thoughts raced through her mind, she thought about creating a community support group focused on mental health, a safe haven for those who struggled in silence. But could it really work? Would people come? Would they trust it enough to speak openly? The many questions tumbled around in her head, but she knew one thing. If they didn't start now, Ethan's voice would be lost, buried under their unspoken pain. After the service, Sarah lingered in the alley beside the church, her mind buzzing with possibilities. Jake found her there, his expression reflecting the weight of their shared grief. "What you said back there, it was powerful." He leaned against the wall, a hint of admiration in his eyes. "Do you really think we can do something? Change the conversation?" She nodded slowly, clarity sharpening her resolve. "We have to try. For Ethan. For ourselves. We can't let his story end here." Jake straightened, a new fire igniting within him. "Then we'll need to organize a meeting. Let us get people involved, show them they aren't alone." Sarah smiled, the weight on her chest easing just a little. It felt more than possible now. They would find a way to keep Ethan's message alive. To create a community where shame was stripped away and honesty reigned. But as the crowd began to thin, a nagging thought pulled at her heart. Would they really step up? Or would this moment of clarity scatter in the wind like ashes from a fire? That night, Sarah sat at her kitchen table, pen poised over paper. With each word she wrote, she felt the pulse of hope bloom. But doubt lurked just beneath the surface. What if no one showed up? What if they turned away? Catching a glimpse of Ethan's favorite picture on the wall, she breathed deeply. This was just the beginning. She thought about their first meeting, the spark of collective change that might ignite. Would it light a fire in others, or would it flicker out? The questions hung heavy in the air, but she felt a thrill of possibility. The real challenge was only just beginning. If Ethan's voice could inspire, could her actions turn whispers into roars? As she penned her thoughts, one question remained unanswered. Would the community rise to meet this moment, or would silence grip them once more? The next morning, Sarah woke to a crisp October sun pouring through her window, illuminating the chaotic thoughts still swirling in her mind. The rustle of leaves outside felt almost like a gentle nudge, reminding her that change was inevitable, that life continued to push forward regardless of the shadows cast by loss. She sat at the table again, the blank page still waiting for her words. This time, however, there was a spark of determination in her. The weight of doubt vacillated between her heart and her head, but she pushed it aside. Instead of focusing on what could go wrong, she began to jot down ideas for the first meeting, topics they could discuss, ideas for activities to foster connection, ways to ensure everyone felt safe sharing their stories. After several moments lost in thought, her phone dinged. It was a message from Jake. "Let us meet at the cafe later? We can brainstorm more." A smile tugged at Sarah's lips. The mere thought of discussing their shared vision with him reignited her hope. She quickly replied and set her mind to the day ahead. The little cafe in town, a cozy spot filled with the scent of freshly brewed coffee and baked goods, seemed alive with laughter and chatter. As she stepped inside, Sarah felt an undercurrent of anxiety. What if the plans she and Jake talked about fell flat? What if they opened old wounds instead of healing them? Jake was already seated, his brow furrowed in concentration as he fiddled with a napkin. When he saw her, a broad smile broke across his face. "Hey, I've been thinking more about how to get this thing started," he said, waving her over. As they began to talk, ideas flowed like the coffee pouring into their cups. They spoke about finding a venue large enough for bigger gatherings, discussed guest speakers who could share their own stories, and even brainstormed ways to promote the meetings to ensure people felt encouraged to attend. After a while, a buzz filled the air as families came in for a Sunday breakfast. Among them, Sarah spotted Mrs. Thompson, With a gentle wave, the school counselor made her way over to their table. "Mind if I join?" she asked, glancing back at the crowded room as she took a seat. "Of course not," Sarah replied, feeling a sense of relief wash over her. "We could use all the help we can get." Mrs. Thompson listened intently as Sarah and Jake laid out their vision. Her eyes softened with understanding, and when they finished, she leaned forward, her voice steady and reassuring. "I believe in this. There is such a need for this kind of space in our community. You'll have my full support." Sarah felt a rush of gratitude. It was one thing to brainstorm ideas, but having someone with Mrs. Thompson's credibility backing their efforts felt monumental. Maybe they could really do this. But beneath the optimism, another nagging thought crept in. What if they planned everything perfectly, and still, people hesitated to come? As they wrapped up their discussion, Mrs. Thompson placed a hand on Sarah's. "What you're doing is so important. Just remember, trust takes time. It's about creating a safe environment where people can open up at their own pace." After saying their goodbyes, Sarah stepped outside into the crisp air, a mixture of excitement and uncertainty swirling in her heart. The leaves danced in the gentle breeze, and for the first time, it felt like the winds of change were truly at her back. That evening, as she settled into bed, fatigue washed over her. She allowed herself to breathe, letting the day's achievements wash over her like a warm blanket. But as soon as her eyes closed, a thought pierced her peace. What if one person's story held the key to their entire community healing? With that lingering question, slumber took her, leaving her dreaming of what tomorrow could hold. Would someone take that first brave step to share their truth, igniting a fire within them all? The next morning, the sun filtered through Sarah's curtains like liquid gold. She stirred awake, the excitement of yesterday still buzzing in her veins. Today was a new day, and with it new possibilities. She pushed aside the remnants of doubt that had lingered and jumped out of bed, opening the windows to inhale the crisp October air. Climbing down the stairs, Sarah could hear her mom in the kitchen, humming softly to herself. The familiar smell of pancakes made her stomach rumble. As she joined her at the breakfast table, her mother looked up, eyes twinkling. "What's gotten into you?" her mom asked, a knowing smile playing on her lips. "You look like you're ready to conquer the world." "Maybe I am," Sarah replied, her own smile growing wider. "I'm meeting Jake later to finalize our plans for the support group. I think it could really work, Mom." Her mother nodded, pride glowing in her expression. "I believe in you, sweetie. Just remember, it's not just about the plans, it's about the people who will come and share with you. Be open." After breakfast, Sarah took her notebook and headed to the park, eager to soak in the beauty of nature. The crunch of leaves underfoot felt grounding, and as she sat on a bench, she let her mind wander over the ideas they had discussed. How would people react? Would they be willing to open up? The park was filled with families, couples, and children laughing as they played. It was a reminder of the joy that filled daily life, even amidst struggles. The vision of a community gathering, sharing and healing, began to crystallize in her mind. Jake arrived shortly thereafter, his face lit up as he spotted her. "Hey. So I've been thinking," he said, his enthusiasm infectious. They dived right back into their brainstorming, refining their ideas and tossing out new ones. "I think we should reach out to the local churches and schools. They could help spread the word," Sarah suggested, her heart racing with each new thought. "Yes. And we could set up a Facebook page to connect with people before the first meeting," Jake added, leaning forward, clearly as energized as she was. Hours slipped by as they sketched plans, adding layers to their dream. There was a certain magic in their collaboration. With every idea they exchanged, Sarah felt more confident that they could truly create a safe space for sharing and healing. As they wrapped up, the sun began to set, casting a golden hue across the park. The air turned cooler, and Sarah could almost feel the weight begin to lift from her shoulders. She turned to Jake, ready to send him off on a high note. "Thank you for today," she said sincerely. "I really believe we're onto something special." Jake grinned, his eyes sparkling. "We're just getting started, Sarah. I have a good feeling about this." As they parted ways, Sarah lingered for just a moment longer. She watched as a group of children chased a dog, laughter spilling out like a melody. She closed her eyes briefly, the breeze ruffling her hair, and felt a small shift within herself, a spark of uncontained hope. But as she turned to leave, a familiar figure caught her eye. Mrs. Thompson was sitting alone on a nearby bench, looking pensive. Something in her posture tugged at Sarah's heart, and before she could think twice, she approached her. "Mrs. Thompson?" The counselor looked up, a mix of surprise and vulnerability etched on her face. "Oh, Sarah, I didn't expect to see you here. She trailed off, looking toward the ground. "What's wrong?" Sarah asked gently, instantly concerned. Mrs. Thompson hesitated. "I've got something weighing on my heart, something I need to share. It might be just what we need for the group." And in that moment, Sarah realized they weren't just planning a group. They were starting a movement. But what was Mrs. Thompson holding back that could change everything? Sarah's heart raced in her chest. She felt a mix of anticipation and unease as she sat down next to Mrs. Thompson. The air seemed to thicken between them, charged with the weight of what was unsaid. "Mrs. Thompson, you can talk to me," she encouraged, her voice tender, hoping to make the counselor feel safe enough to share. "Whatever it is, I promise we can handle it together." For a moment, Mrs. Thompson remained silent, her hands clasped tightly on her lap. But then she looked up, determination shining through her vulnerability. "It's about the community and some stories of loss that have been kept hidden. Stories that need to come to light." Sarah's curiosity flared. "What do you mean?" "There's a memory circle that I used to facilitate. It was all about sharing grief and healing." But she hesitated, glancing around as if confirming they were alone. "There's been one story in particular that has haunted me. It involves a student, a boy from this town who passed away recently. He had so much to offer, and his death left so many questions unanswered." A chill ran through Sarah. She remembered the buzz around the school, whispers about a tragic accident. It felt raw, still palpable in the air. "I heard about it, but I didn't know him. What happened?" Mrs. Thompson leaned closer, her expression grave. "He was presumed dead in an accident. But I wonder if that's the whole truth. There were signs leading up to his death, signs that made me suspect there was more to his story." "What kind of signs?" Sarah pressed, leaning in further. The world around them faded, leaving just the two of them and this unfolding mystery. "His mother told me he was working on something important that he wanted to share. He went silent right before the accident. I regret not pushing harder for him to open up. I just had a feeling that whatever he intended to share might have been vital, maybe even transformative." Mrs. Thompson's eyes glistened with emotion. "What if there are others like him who feel unheard?" Sarah could feel her heart quicken. This wasn't just about forming a group anymore. It was about letting voices be heard, catching the things left unsaid, just as they had both wanted to do from the very beginning. That's what our support group can be. A place where everyone has the chance to voice their stories, their truths. Yes, but it will need to be more than a group. It could evolve into a platform for uplifting these untold narratives, Mrs. Thompson said, her energy igniting. "We could honor him, share his story, and in turn, encourage others to speak up. We could shed light on the darkness." Suddenly, they were interrupted by the loud chuckle of a nearby child, making them both jump. Sarah's chest tightened at the thought of grief mingled with joy. The dance of life and death always playing out in complicated ways. "I can't help but think we have to make this happen now. When people realize they have a space to speak and listen, it can change everything," Mrs. Thompson said, her eyes shining with resolve. Her skin prickled. The vision of their support group now blooming into something so much larger, capable of rippling through their community. "Then let us do it. We will find ways to spread the word, to honor the stories, and this boy won't be forgotten." The two sat there, hearts pounding with a mix of excitement and fear. Yesterday had felt like a spark, and now they were standing on the edge of a wildfire of hope. But as they began discussing the next steps, Sarah couldn't shake the haunting sensation that there was still something left unsaid, something more significant waiting to be revealed. "Mrs. Thompson, what if there's more to this boy's story? What if he is not just a memory?" The older woman's face reflected both fear and intrigue. They shared a moment of uncertainty before the gravity of the idea settled in. What other revelations could lay in the depths of the past? And how would they impact the future of their mission? The sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the park. Sarah and Mrs. Thompson sat in the growing twilight, the weight of their conversation echoing against the precious moments of silence that followed. "Mrs. Thompson, do you have any idea what this boy was working on before?" Sarah asked hesitantly. The urgency of wanting to know was overpowering. The mystery now entwined with fear and curiosity. "I wish I had pressuring enough to find out," Mrs. Thompson sighed, the flicker of frustration dancing in her eyes. The school tried to shield the family from more pain, but what if now, speaking out could spark something? Show others they're not alone? Both women felt a shared resilience in that moment, and it was as if the evening air had thickened, drawing them into an unspoken pact. They were not just two people sitting in a park. They were torchbearers for the stories that needed to be set free. "I have to speak to his mother, see if she recalls anything or if he left any clues." Sarah's heart ached at the thought of grieving parents, caught in the web of loss, longing for connection. If he intended to share his thoughts, maybe there's something left behind. "That's a good idea," Mrs. Thompson replied, her tone now laced with purpose. "But you might need to tread carefully. Grief can be a fortress, and it's essential to approach gently. She might not be ready for those discussions." Sarah nodded, absorbing Mrs. Thompson's wisdom. She thought of the boy's mother, wrestling against such depths of sorrow. How could she help offer hope to a shattered heart? "We can also organize a gathering to prepare the community for this." Sarah's words came pouring out in a rush. "Invite people to come forward, to share, to listen, to remember those who have gone. And if this boy's story is meant to unfold, it will. We'll create that space. Then we need a name, a vision, a reason that resonates," Mrs. Thompson suggested, a hint of excitement returning to her voice. "Something that makes everyone feel welcomed while honoring their stories." Sarah fell silent for a moment, mulling over the significance of each word. "What if we call it Voices in the Wind? It's poetic but also says, those stories never really leave us." Mrs. Thompson's eyes sparkled with approval. "I love it. It's evocative, a gentle reminder that no matter what, their shadows remain beside us, guiding us forward." As the final rays of daylight slipped away, a vibrancy of hope filled the space between them. The idea of creating a haven for shared grief began to feel tangible, a blooming seed in rich soil. But amidst their enthusiasm, Sarah couldn't shake a sense of foreboding. What if? What if we uncover something unsettling in the process? If the boy's truth is darker than we expect? Mrs. Thompson rested her hand on Sarah's arm, a grounding gesture. "Then we face it together. That's the beauty of community, we lift each other up, no matter how heavy the burdens we carry." But uncertainty nagged at Sarah, her heart whispering doubts she couldn't quite chase away. Later that evening, as she walked home, the sinking twilight seemed to mirror her thoughts. This journey was only just beginning, and yet Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that their mission might unveil truths they weren't ready to face. The sound of distant laughter from a group of children playing nearby echoed around her, contrasting starkly with the heaviness in her heart. She paused, taking a deep breath. What if this boy is still out there somehow? Still living in some way beyond our understanding? A chill danced down her spine. Was she getting ahead of herself? Or was there truth in her instinct, a greater story waiting to be told? The night deepened, surrounding her in shadows and questions, and Sarah realized her journey for answers was only just beginning. What would happen when she found out more? What mysteries of life and death awaited just beyond the horizon? The next morning, Sarah woke up with an urgency knitting her brows together. The sun peeked timidly through her curtains, but it did little to lighten the heaviness resting in her chest. Today felt different. Today was a step into the unknown, and for the first time, Sarah accepted the cacophony of emotions swirling within her. She quickly prepared herself, brushing her hair tied with the same sense of determination she would need for the journey ahead. Her thoughts lingered on the boy's mother. An image of a broken woman flashed in her mind, the weight of unbearable grief etching lines on her face. As Sarah approached the mother's house, each step felt like a drumbeat in her ears. The neighborhood looked familiar yet distant, the trees lining the street swaying gently, whispering secrets she was not yet privy to. She reached the front door and hesitated. Was there a right way to begin this conversation? After a moment, she rang the doorbell. The chime echoed inside, An anxiety twisted in her stomach. The door creaked open slowly, revealing a woman whose eyes held the depth of sorrow, yet a flicker of warmth remained. "Hello," the woman said softly, her voice a fragile thread. "You must be Sarah." "Yes, I'm so sorry to intrude." Sarah glanced at the ground, gathering her thoughts. "I wanted to speak to you about your son. I know it's a difficult time, but I feel there might be something worthwhile to share." The woman breathed in deeply, an unsteady sigh escaping her lips. "Yes, gone." You've probably heard her words trailed off, the pain hanging heavy in the air. "I have heard, and that's why I'm here." Sarah's voice trembled with emotion. "I want to help honor his story, give others a chance to remember him, to talk, to share. But first, I need to understand, was there anything he left behind? Something he wanted us to know?" At the mention of the boy's legacy, a flicker of recognition lit in the mother's eyes. "He wrote," she whispered, "but it was never meant for anyone else. Just thoughts, feelings." In that moment, the walls around her heart seemed to crack, allowing light to shine through. "Please," Sarah urged gently. "If there is anything at all, it could change lives. It could help others." Tears pooled in the mother's eyes as she turned, leading Sarah into the modest home. The walls were adorned with photos, frozen moments of joy, laughter, and love. But then she noticed a small desk in the corner, cluttered with notebooks and loose papers. "My son often wrote poetry about things we didn't understand." The mother picked up a notebook, flipping through the pages as if searching for answers herself. "He had a way with words. But should I share his pain?" "Yes." Sarah spoke softly, feeling the weight of the moment. "Sharing can lighten that load. It can give others the courage to break their silence." The mother nodded, biting her lip. "All right then. But you have to promise me this won't be just about him. It has to be about all of us." As Sarah began to read aloud, the emotions poured forth like a river. The boy's words flowed through her, rich with unspoken truths, fears, and hopes. Each line vibrated with life. It was as if he were whispering through time, urging them to share his story. "I'm alive." Sarah read unexpectedly from a scrawled note at the end of one poem. What could that mean? A shiver coursed through her. With every heart-pounding moment in the room, a question hung thick in the air. What if this wasn't just about memory? What if it pointed to something deeper, something beyond loss? Sarah met the mother's gaze, both filled with awe and apprehension. We might be onto something extraordinary. The unanswered questions loomed large, and as they both understood the weight of what was unfolding before them, they knew this was just the beginning. What would it lead to? What truths were waiting to be uncovered? As Sarah's voice hung in the air, the gravity of the moment pressed down on both women. The words "I'm alive" echoed in Sarah's mind, sparking a flicker of something: hope, confusion, or perhaps a blend of both. She glanced back at the boy's mother, whose expression teetered between sorrow and an inkling of wonder. "What do you think he meant by that?" the mother asked, her voice barely a whisper. Sarah shrugged, feeling a rush of emotion claw at her throat. "Maybe he didn't mean he's gone, maybe it's his way of saying he's still here. Just in a different form." The mother's brow creased in thought. "But how? How can we prove that? Does that even make sense?" "It does to me," Sarah replied, her own heart racing with the possibility. Maybe those words were meant to guide us, to unite us in a way we've never considered. The mother's eyes glistened with unspent tears. "You think he wanted us to be brave? To share our experiences?" "I think he wanted to remind us that life goes beyond loss," Sarah said, her chest swelling with resolve. "If we talk about him, we can share a part of him with everyone who loved him. People need to feel connected, even in grief." "Maybe I've been too focused on my pain to see that," the mother murmured, her voice quaking with emotion. "I've been holding on to the loss and not the love." Both women shared a moment of silence, the walls of the house heavy with memories and unspoken bonds. Sarah took a deep breath. They had embarked on a journey that twisted through the corridors of grief and discovery. But how could they start this new chapter? "Let us read more," she suggested, a determined spark igniting within her. "Let us go through his poetry together, and find messages that might inspire others." The mother nodded, her eyes lighting up with shared purpose. "You're right. If he wrote about his struggles, We need to show others they're not alone. Maybe this is exactly what he meant. Before they could continue, a sudden commotion outside broke their reverie. The sound of raised voices drifted in through the window, jolting them both from their contemplative state. The mother looked worried, glancing toward the front door. "That's my neighbor, Susan," she said. "She's been bringing meals for me, but today she seems agitated." "I'll see what's going on," Sarah said, moving toward the door. She felt a strange mix of instinct and urgency to step outside, a sense that whatever was brewing could perhaps change everything. As she opened the door, the sight before her was startling. A small crowd had gathered on the street, with Susan standing at the forefront, looking frantic. She noticed Sarah and pointed emphatically toward the gathering crowd. "Sarah," Susan called out, her voice piercing through the murmurs. "You need to hear this. There's something incredible happening. Something about the boy." Sarah's heart skipped a beat. What did Susan mean? What revelation could possibly lie before them, especially after just discovering the boy's poignant words? "Everyone's talking about it," Susan continued, her eyes wide with disbelief. "They're saying there's something he left behind, something that might explain everything." A thrill of anticipation shot through Sarah. "What is it? What do you mean?" "There's a message. You have to come," Susan urged, her voice urging Sarah to understand the weight of her words. As Sarah stood frozen at that threshold, a newfound meaning bubbled up inside her. The urgency of the moment sparked an undeniable thrill. This was a call to action, a doorway to the truths they were seeking together. What had the boy left behind? What could unravel the mystery of his existence? Sarah felt the weight of the world shift as she stepped forward into the unknown, ready to discover what secrets might finally illuminate the shadows of grief. They were about to uncover something extraordinary. But what truth awaited them just beyond the door? Stepping outside, Sarah was engulfed by a wave of murmurs and excitement. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows over the crowd that had gathered. There were familiar faces, neighbors and friends drawn in by curiosity and a shared sorrow. But today, the air buzzed with something different, something electrifying. "What's going on?" Sarah asked Susan, her voice barely cutting through the chatter. With an urgency that demanded attention, Susan gestured toward a man near the front of the crowd, a local historian named Mr. Jenkins. He stood with an old, tattered journal in hand, its pages fluttering in the breeze like fragile wings. "He claims he found something of the boy's," she exclaimed. "Something we need to see." The crowd started to part, and Sarah felt a pull, an invisible thread urging her closer. She moved forward, and as she did, she caught glimpses of various expressions: hope, yearning, anxiety. The boy's mother emerged beside her, her hand resting on Sarah's shoulder as they both faced Mr. Jenkins. "Please tell us," the mother implored, her voice thick with emotion. Mr. Jenkins cleared his throat, the weight of the moment pressing heavily on his shoulders. "I was going through some old archives at the library when I stumbled upon this journal. It once belonged to the boy." His eyes twinkled with excitement as he began to read. Words spilled from the pages like a waterfall, each one resonating with the crowd. It was poetry, memories of laughter, pain, and innermost thoughts wrapped up in every stanza. Sarah could feel her heart racing as the boy's essence leapt back to life through his words. "And I am the breeze that warms your skin," Mr. Jenkins recited, "and in the stars I'll always shine." A soft gasp echoed from the gathered friends and neighbors. Sarah felt it too, a deep connection rekindling within her. The boy had poured his soul into these words, leaving behind a piece of himself, a lifeline for those still anchored here on earth. "What does it mean?" the boy's mother whispered, tears pooling in her eyes but mingled with something brighter. "He wrote all this, it's like he knew." "Yes," Mr. Jenkins responded gently. "He may have been showing us that we're not just the lives we physically lead. In moments of joy and anguish, we are a part of each other's journeys, a source of strength that never truly disappears." As he continued, Sarah could feel a shift in the air, a collective realization dawning on those present. The weight of grief began to fracture, giving way to something lighter, a shared purpose, an urgent understanding of connection that pierced through sorrow. "Hold fast to the memories," the boy's mother said, her voice gaining strength with each word. "He was alive in those moments, and we must celebrate that." The crowd began to murmur, voices rising as people exchanged glances, some nodding, others reaching out to hold hands. Hope sparked amidst the pain, illuminating a path toward healing. As Sarah stood there, she felt a sense of belonging. A community gathered to embrace love, even in grief. Then suddenly, a strange hush settled over the crowd when a young girl slipped through the throng. Her eyes were wide with wonder, and she clutched something tightly in her hands. "Excuse me," she called out, her voice breaking through the stillness. "I found this." The crowd shifted, eyes darting toward her. As the girl stepped closer, Sarah held her breath, her heart racing. What could she be holding? What more could this day reveal? Was this another piece of the boy's legacy? A deeper truth waiting to be uncovered? The anticipation was palpable, sending chills up her spine. What revelation lay in wait just beyond the horizon? The girl approached Mr. Jenkins, who bent down to meet her gaze. Her tiny hands opened, revealing a slip of parchment, slightly crumpled but filled with an energy that pulled everyone closer. "He wrote this too," she exclaimed, her voice unsteady yet full of determination. "I heard him say he wanted people to have this." The crowd collectively inhaled, tension thickening the air. Sarah leaned in, unable to tear her eyes away. Mr. Jenkins took the parchment, his fingers running over the words as he began to read. "To those who come after me, know that I will always be a part of you. In laughter, in tears, in every whisper of the wind, remember, I'm alive." Gasps spread through the crowd, eyes widening. The boy's mother squeezed Sarah's shoulder tightly, tears streaming down her cheeks, but now fueled by something more than sorrow, an overwhelming sense of connection. "Did you hear that?" Sarah thought about how the boy had spoken directly to them all. "He wanted us to be brave," she whispered to the mother, who nodded, still processing the weight of it all. Mr. Jenkins continued. "He felt alone, yes, but he wanted to remind us that even in the darkest moments, love endures. We carry each other within us." The crowd began to murmur, and Sarah felt a wave of emotion wash over as they voiced their thoughts of hope and community, each echo reflecting the truth that had been hidden for too long. As the realization dawned on them, a wave of purpose surged through the people gathered. Faces changed from despair to determination, a collective rebirth of spirit. "We have to honor him," someone called out, breaking through the crowd with a plea. "Let us create that space for sharing. A place where no one feels invisible." Sarah's heart raced. This was it. "Yes," she shouted, feeling empowered. "We can launch voices in the wind right here." Cheers erupted around her, the community's commitment solidifying like cement. Mrs. Thompson joined in, her voice steady. "Let us send flyers throughout town. Set up a social media page to spread the word. We can meet here in a week. Let us share stories. Honor lives together." Every conversation sparked like wildfire, kindling the warmth that had flickered down throughout the day. The crowd shared anecdotes and spirited plans, each person embracing vulnerability as they spoke of lean years and devastating losses, tears mingling with heartfelt laughter. Sarah saw the boy's mother wipe her eyes, a look of serenity washing over her. She glanced toward Sarah. "What a gift," she said softly. "He is reminding us that life goes on. It's not just about the end, it's about what we do with the love he left behind." As shadows stretched across the street with the setting sun, a glowing light began to shine through the tension that had once reigned there. Love lived beyond memories. It thrived amidst shared burdens and unvoiced truth. In that moment, hope surged anew. They stood unified, an entire community ready to confront the unacknowledged struggles together. Tears of joy replaced sorrow as they embraced each other, their hearts swelling with resolve. That night, Sarah sat in her bedroom, energized as she jotted down their newly forged plans. An idea emerged, a gathering filled with storytelling, a real sense of connection. Tears of gratitude fell onto her page as she envisioned the first meeting. But what if something else awaited them? What else could the boy's presence, and the words he left behind, bring to light in their community? The idea thrummed like a heartbeat, a realization of belonging settling into the very core of her being. Through every sorrow, through every truth shared, they were stronger together. The boy had ignited a flame of possibility, and Sarah couldn't help but feel that this was just the beginning. Let it begin, she quietly breathed to the stars, dancing in the indigo sky. And in that promise, buried in the whispering winds of change, a community forged a legacy of connection and loss, ready to shine brighter than ever before. Now this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe immediately to this channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that can inspire and transform lives. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help others find this message. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. True fans understand the importance of rallying behind stories that matter.